Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Fimfiction reading. I'm Landon, and today I'm reading Marshall Bliss by Skyrider. Alright, maggot, bellowed Staff Sergeant Thunderous, once of the Equestrian Royal Guard. Today's the day I teach you to use the most deadly weapon in the palace arsenal. Do you know what that is, soldier? With all due respect, sir, said Captain Shining Armor, currently of the Equestrian Royal Guard, and in fact the stallion in charge of the entire operation. You're not actually my drill instructor anymore. Plus, I outrank you. Shining Armor scratched his mane with one hoof and took a glance around at the rather unassuming and grimy Canterlot dockyard bar he found himself in. I outrank you. Like 8 times. Thunderous threw back another mug of cider, his 11th of the evening, and wiped the foam off his whiskers with one powerfully muscled arm. You think I don't know that, you lily-livered pansy? I know you're in charge of that sorry flank outfit you call the Modern Guard. Worthless! Again, with all due respect, said Shining Armor with considerable patience. They're fine colts, sir. I would trust any of them with my life. Any one of them. Thunderous laughed, sharp and barking. And you think they'd actually be able to save your life if it came to that? I do, Shining Armor said, nodding. Pah! Said Thunderous. They may prance a good prance, but when the chips are down, they're going to need firepower. More firepower than you've given them. They're well chained with the spear, said Shining Armor, and with all major forms of desert and up to indulging balance mage. I don't think I need to tell you how difficult that is to master. Thunderous shook his shaggy-maned head and belched heroically into his 12th cider. Shining had not even seen him order it. Unless, he said. Okay, said Shining Armor, who remained remarkably game despite the rather unusual and off-putting circumstances. What exactly should I be teaching them to use? Thunderous ran a lazy eye over the crowd, vanished into it, and returned, a blousy-looking, purple-hued Pegasus mare in tow. The wife, he said, apparently in introduction. Good evening, Mrs. Thunderous, said Shining Armor with a polite little bow. Please, call me Peachy, she said. She shrugged, smiling. Okay, said Shining. Peachy Thunderous. Charmed to meet you. Your husband was just about to tell me exactly what style of deadly force I should be training to my recruits to use. I did tell you, shouted Thunderous, causing some of the other bar patrons to glance at him and edge away. The wife! Shining Armor blinked. When you said, the wife, that was actually the answer to my question. Of course, Dunderhead. You want me to teach colts under my command to attack the enemy using their spouses? No better weapon in Equestria, crowded Thunderous, pulling Peachy close as the mare adopted a winsome little OU expression. This is my wife, the crazed ex-sergeant shouted. There are many like her, but this one is mine. Oh, Thundy, said Peachy, rolling her eyes. Such a flatterer. My wife is my best friend, continued Thunderous, his eyes going a little crazy. She is my life. I must master her as I master my life. I eat with her. I sleep with her. Well, I would hope so, said Shining Armor diplomatically. I mean, don't you have to master your wife as such? But the eating and sleeping thing... Hush, maggot, suggested Thunderous. Don't you dare interrupt me in the middle of a rifleman's creed. Sorry. You had better be, screeched Thunderous. With disciplined use, the wife is the single most powerful weapon at any pony's disposal. A trained attacker comes at you armed with his wife, you'd better turn tail and run. What if it's just his filly friend? Thunderous's voice got low and dangerous. Then you marry that mare, son. He nodded decisively, thus disarming him. It worked for us, said Peachy, snuggling her husband close. 25 years since he first stole me away from that low-life mugger I was with, and I haven't looked back. Okay, said Shining Armor. How are these, hypothetical spouse-based attackers going to be coming at me? How exactly are they weaponizing their brides? Simple, said Thunderous. They're going to lift them up and toss them at you. Lift them, screamed Thunderous directly into Shining Armor's face. "Mark my words, Colt. The day is going to come when you'll need to take your wife in your hooves, lift her boldly over your head, and chuck her at the enemy. And when that day comes, if you haven't trained, and trained hard, you're going to be in an entire world of hurt. The final darkness will be falling, society will be collapsing into shards, and all around you, you'll be lying there in the throes of a painful lumbago, absolutely unable to finish the job." "The job of throwing my wife at the enemy?" "Yes!" Shining Armor backed up a step or two away. "I'm not even married, sir." "No excuses!" screamed Thunderous. "Listen to me now, Armor. When that fateful day arrives, you will remember these words, and you will weep, Armor. Weep that you did not heed them. Some day, the fate of all Equestria will hang on your ability to treat your life like a massive projectile." "Sir," said Shining Armor, "I think maybe you've had enough cider for the evening."
"Oh, don't be like that," said Peachy. "I thought he was crazy too. That is, until he used me to decisively end the battle of rushing forward, chucked me right at the insurgent general, knocked him on his helmet, and clang!"
She clapped her hooves together.
Rebellion quashed. Kind of fun, actually.
She shot Thunderous a sly little wink. There was a pause. There was no reason that this should be a moment in which the world turned, thought Shining Armor. A chance of meeting with an old drill instructor, now obviously quite senile, and totally bucking insane. A plan that made no sense whatsoever. A highly dubious version of history that did not gel well at all with the books of military tactics that Shining Armor had rather voraciously devoured at the academy. But nonetheless, the air seemed to thicken around him, as though destiny was pressing down on the three of them with an iron hoof. Shining Armor could not explain it, but the sense of inexplicable, inescapable gravity was clear. What he said here tonight, right now, had the power to shape the future of Equestria. "All right," said Shining Armor, feeling destiny lock into place. "Show me." "You," said Thunderous, gathering his faithful wife up in his hoofs and adopting a lifting stance, "will not regret this." Many years later, as invading shadows clustered and gathered around the coronation balcony of the Crystal Citadel, Prince Shining Armor's eyes tracked the falling star of bright teal across the poisoned ochre sky, a tiny streak that represented Equestria's final hope for salvation. If only some pony could fly up to catch it in her hooves and snatch it away from the ravenous jaws of the spirit of the ancient and disposed Unicorn King. Then, the Crystal Empire, and by proxy, all of the world, would be preserved. But Cadence was far too weak from exertion to execute a proper Pegasus takeoff, and even with his own horn had been neutralized by the dark crystal magic, the falling heart was well out of his telekinetic range. There was, indeed, only one plan left. He glanced at his beautiful young bride. She glanced back at him. They nodded to one another.
"I hope you know what you're doing,"
said Cadence, clambering up onto Shining Armor's back. "Everything will be absolutely fine, my dearest," said Shining, flexing his powerful deltoids and quadriceps. "And do you know why?"
"Why?"
Shining Armor's face was a mask of beatific confidence. "I," he said, "trained at the hooves of a master." The end.